It is the 90s, and it is time for Rinoa Reviews. Salutations, Searcher for Rinoa here with a review that I may or may not decide to do episodic. Well, I got no choice here. You heard the update earlier, the update video I had quickly. Because this isn't a movie review. This is Video Power. Video Power was a show that ran from 1990 to 1992. It went through two different aspects, the second season being a more game show variety. I have yet to find that on YouTube. This first one I'm going to be covering, first season, is basically, once again, like the Super Mario Brothers Super Show, where it consisted of live-action segments and cartoon segments. And it ran for a good half hour. It was mostly the cartoon segment, so I'll be focusing on that. But anyway, our live-action segments, hosted by this fellow here, Johnny Arcade, taking us through everything video games, tips, interviews with game creators. He says inventors, but it seems so out of date to say nowadays. He also mentions, quote, video game counselors who do nothing but play games all day and get paid for it. Does he mean to say game tester? Not sure. He also celebrities and what games they play, so, gamer stuff. He opens with the cartoon segments, which I'll be focusing most of the review upon, and just touching on what Johnny reviews or something, because most of it is just tips for games that already existed, and if I find anything, it's interesting to just what games have debuted during around this time, or at least he did review. I don't know if they're reviews of games about to debut or something like that. So if I'm wrong on that, I'm wrong on that. But anyway, just kind of going over what the culture was at the time. But yeah, episode 1, yes, we have no tomatoes. The cartoon segment is called Power Tomb, or the Power Tomb. This Power Tomb is all Acclaim-based, but none of them really created by said Acclaim. They just did the publishing. Quirk the Tomato, which was a Game Boy puzzle game from Atlas. Max Force, the main hero from Narc, a game about the war on drugs and literally waging war on drugs. Kyros, the main hero from the Wizards and Warriors trilogy, although in the game he was in full armor, looking more Sir Arthur. In the cartoon, no armor and looks like He-Man fused with Conan. Tyrone from Arch Rivals, so he throws a basketball and that's about it. And the monster truck Bigfoot, because he had a game too. Again, helped published by Acclaim to the NES. And he talks too, of course. Sounds like 90s crackhead energy to me. Our villains, Mr. Big from Narc, alongside Dumb Muscle Joe Rockhead and Spike, aka Dr. Spike Rush, but here he's just called Spike. That looks like Discount Yazan Gable with they look like they shrunk Egon a little bit and made him just meh. With all the leather and the sunglasses. They're shooting down tomato shipments and just getting rid of the guys and taking that over. Hijacking. Some of our heroes already know and they're hiding out in one. Bigfoot is visible, but they're hiding. But he's shuffling tomatoes. I'm wait, don't they know the big? There's going to be consistencies in every episode. I'm going to try not to point out all of them because, oh, man. I'm pretty sure this review consisted of just that. Somehow our heroes already know, like I said. Also, a cartoon Johnny Arcade is on a TV somehow, able to watch everything unfold. I'm not sure if this is a game world or not, where they are. It's, we get the name of what it's called later, but I'm not sure if this is a game world or just, yeah, it's not something to spend too much time to think about. Mr. Big busting out all sorts of cartoony weapons, like a cigar-shaped rocket launcher, a brick that turns into a wall when thrown, an ink-spewing pen that blinds Bigfoot in his headlights, because that's where Car's eyes would be, of course. Apparently the heroes assembled from their own game worlds from cartridges, as Johnny Arcade is on a TV and a radio. Always the guy behind the scenes, basically, but he's also playing with the heroes as well on an NES Advantage that looks more yellow than white. Maybe that yellowed out what cartridges would yellow out? Was that NES, SNES, or N64? I forget. Or something like that. But some cartridges would just yellow over time. So maybe that's what happened here. I don't know. I didn't own an NES Advantage, so I couldn't say. Maybe they just wanted to make the color different. But it's the stick and the buttons, clearly. That's clearly what they were going for. They couldn't make it exact. I think the buttons were on the Advantage were a lot bigger. Like these are a lot smaller. These look like a joystick and just 2 buttons, just big enough to look like the NES Advantage, but not just straight up rip it off. Anyway, the heroes are apparently assembled from their own game worlds from cartridges in this world, and so Mr. Big's always carrying around these like black cartridges, ready to like, I'm gonna zap you back into your own world. Yeah. By the way, all this happens in a span of like 5 fucking minutes. Quirk hiding out in the back of Bigfoot with the tomatoes. He's like, yeah, I'm gonna start throwing tomatoes. Which Mr. Big calls tomatoes. He's like, they're called tomatoes. Yeah. He tails the villains back to their warehouse where they're keeping the tomatoes, and he does good for a while, but ultimately gets nabbed. The villain's plan is to sell the tomatoes back to the pizza owners that they stole it from at 10 times the normal price. A sting happens with one of the pizza owners, like Johnny's like, okay, we got pops on the inside. We're like, holy shit. Woo-hoo. Yeah, this goes very quick. This big crackhead energy. But man, it's the good kind of crackhead energy. We'll get to, there's bad kind of crackhead energy, like the cringe stuff, which is usually the live action shit. But yeah, Pops is our guy in, and he's like, okay, your code word's trouble. When you say that, we're gonna bust in, and let's just like go. And it's like, we got all the tomatoes now. Yeah, pizza man. And it's like, you also got trouble. They busted. As far as the live action stuff, not much meat on the bone for this one. Just a tip for Ninja Gaiden 2 and Revenge of Shinobi. So it's kind of the feeling out process. It would get a little bit more, and I get to cover a little bit more of the live action stuff, but just a little bit. But again, the focus will always be on the cartoon, the power team. Which brings us to episode 2, Treasures of Bangladar. A young prince has a map to a treasure on a medallion on his neck. Well, I guess you gotta find some way for Spike to get the medallion with the power team and police in hot pursuit. Bigfoot late due to traffic, but I was like, oh, I can stretch my wheels on like these little stilts and just be like, okay, now I'm up here. The wheels are like are stretched out, so I can just like drive over the cars, but not crush any of them. So I'm like, I'm a good monster truck. I can't crush no pedestrians. So he drives around and over without monster crushing, and can also jump over an oil slick by Mr. Big and extend his bumper, like his front bumper, to just jut out and just like boom, punch the limo in the back. Just, like this monster truck somehow the Mockster Truck 5. He is the cause of and solution to all of this episode's problems, or at least this one, because when he bumps the limo, it bumps it right into the waiting getaway blimp with the power tube chasing them inside. So they're inside, and somehow the limo gets to the ceiling of the blimp and it's just hanging there by some force of gravity or invisible wires or sheer force of will, shooting lasers at our heroes from the front end. Like, how did it get up there, and why is it like getting ready to shoot? How long was he up there to plan that spot? Oh, this is where I'm like, okay, I'm doing this as a scene. I'm in now. Episode 2. Like, usually with me, it's like you got till 5 to get me interested. Episode 2, I'm like, oh, I'm in. I'm so in. I need to see where this goes. Oh, wow. Like, I remember watching this back, like, it was like very early on. And very early morning for me, like 6 a.m. this ran. So I ran downstairs, like trying to get myself up at 6 and ran down to watch this thing. It was very early. Like even before my parents were up as a kid, I watched this thing. Get all my tips and whatever. I think I found out about later on I didn't know all these episodes in order, so. But anyway. That's here now and that's on YouTube. I can get them. But yeah, just the limo on top of the thing almost sent me. And Tyrone almost kills Mr. Big and his weird green arrow-ass cigar guns by just basketballing him off the blimp after taking the medallion back. And another bumper bump from Bigfoot sends the limo and Spike out of the blimp as well. Joe Rockhead, even though he's done muscle flying the blimp, he's like, okay, I gotta jump. And the villains live because water, with cartoon logic, dictates safe landing. Go sit in a pool of water and then just slap the top of it open hand as hard as friggin' possible. That stings. Now imagine it falling from that kind of, just falling your whole body with that kind of height. Just, yeah. Body in motion stays in motion until it, like, stops. You're coming in there with that speed, yeah. But cartoon logic, they live. So they get the medallion back and the map at the museum, which is also somehow where the treasure is, but also a maze. Villains steal the medallion again when the heroes take them down with Quirk's skill in mazes, i.e., I'm going to fastball special myself and just bounce around the place and cause collateral damage, because that's kind of the only thing I got going for me. The museum owner is here as well, and he pulls out a cigar grenade. He's like, oh, I hear these things do a lot of damage. I want the treasure too. Heel turn. And he, along with the villains, are also highly superstitious as the prince shows up dressed as a mummy because the heroes earlier used that to hide him. Gross. You're not thinking of that much again at night, the cartoon logic, but looking back at it now. So there's just some cadaver with no wrappings. Just, he probably got the curse by putting the wrappings on him. And he's like, "Boo, my mommy, I give you the curse." No, it wasn't like that language, but they get the medallion and that's it. No treasure is even shown. So the title just lied to us. And somehow to outdo the crackheadedness of this episode, that's where this thumbnail comes in. Live action Johnny uses a loudspeaker like he's like, announcing a new game. It's like this echo effect on an old announcing mic to talk about the debut of Nightmare on Elm Street for the NES. And he's got this Freddy Krueger glove with one of the sharp points. I don't know if you can see it with this picture, but one of the sharp points is sticking through the box art. Oh my god. But yeah, I saw this. I'm like, okay, I got my thumbnail. That's all I need. Episode 3, Hooray for Hollyweird. A movie's being shot in Millview. They might have said it a couple of times before, but I think like episode 2, episode 3 is where I get like, I'm talking like Mallview? Millview? Oh, Millview? As filming starts, somehow Max Force is dumb enough to think someone dumping fake rubbery bricks during a shoot. He comes in to save the day and the damsel in distress, or so he thinks. Director's like, get this idiot out of here. Mr. Big and Cone is trying to oblige, and back and forth between those two, more collateral damage is done. The main actor is having her lights and trailer smash his fears, and she's like, I'll be on my trailer crying. But the director and cameraman was filming all that. He's like, oh, I need more of this guy, this Mr. Big. Director runs down his limo. He's like, hey, you. No, we need you. You make you a star, baby. And Big's like, I don't want to. He's very reluctant this whole time. Spike has a plan to use that chance to their advantage. He's like, hey, we can lure in the power team to the set and zap them for real, thinking it's a movie, you know. Also, you have the same body type of the director, he's so fat. Big is what I meant. So, you get to disguise yourself as the director, and then lure Max Force in. Like, hey, tell him, hey, he wants him in your movie, blah, blah, blah. But he doesn't even have to do that because Max Force arrives with the team to apologize for yesterday's misunderstanding. And even Mr. Big is like, oh, I love it when all the pieces fall in place or something along those lines. I'm like, all right, yeah. People outside murmuring and Big says, be quiet or I'll zap you. The other members are like, oh, zap you? Who talks like that? I'm like, oh, that voice sounds familiar. Oh, it must be Mr. Big. And so they chase him off the end of the episode while Max Force, their plan is to get, like, okay, you're the villain and we're going to handcuff you to the rail posts. And that's when he's open for Spike to just go in. And it's like, okay, once he's handcuffed, zap him. And they always got to get, like, super, super close to try and zap him. Although later that's probably a discrepancy too, because, again, this movie moves at breakneck speed and yet is, like, the most part of the episode from what I remember. But anyway. Debut games in this episode, or at least he calls them reviews. That's why I'm a little wary about the debuts. He calls them reviews. Like, I guess they're new and coming out. Otherwise, why review them? So that's what I mean. But yeah, Double Dragon 2 for the Game Boy, Ghostbusters for the Genesis, and he's got like this weird play use on the side. So I guess it's based off the second game. Shouldn't it be Ghostbusters 2, or was there only the one game for the Genesis? NES gets 2, Battle Tank. And Dick Tracy, double. That game's hard as shit. Episode 4, New Gang in Town. This is the debut of the other big villain that'll show up on this. Malkill, the final boss of Wizards and Warriors. He looks a bit glowed up. He kind of looks like, based on the just purple hat and long white beard he has, like, in one of the games from what I've seen. I'm like, okay. Again, just to fit the whole Conan thing. I'm like, okay. He's got to glow up a little bit. He's like, I got this magic mirror that's going to be this door that's going to take me from my realm to Millview so I can attack Kyros directly, claim his iron sword, and then rule the world of Sindarin unopposed. Mr. Big and his cronies, meanwhile, have a plan to attack the Power Doom at the park from underneath the sewers, or the sewer level, as they call it. Because when Malkill shows up, he's like, where am I? He's like, you're in the sewer level. Malkill, like, oh, who's this bozo? He's like, and Malkill showcases his spells, including his means of turning into a water elemental as he decides to attack from the sewers. I'm like, okay. I guess that's something from the second game, Iron Sword? Because I recalled a review for that on the Game Players Magazine tapes, which is what Johnny Arcade references, like, from Game Players Magazine. It's this, blah, blah, blah. So, yeah. Once again, the thing at the time. Because it was all, like, either, like, you bought a magazine or you did a 1-900 number for, like, $1.25 or something a minute. I see it. I'll get to that in a moment. A couple of segments here. But yeah, Malkill summoning all manners of creatures for the heroes to just zap away. In the conflict, Mr. Big from the other side, he busts up Tyrone's basketball, so I guess he's done fighting for the episode. Sherman, he doesn't go the Mr. Big route and just has, like, basketballs for every situation, like Mr. Green Arrow, Mr. Big over here with his like cigar with like a fist on it, and the cigar with like this little thing to poke the, because that's what he shoots at the basketball, and it's like pops it open, I guess like a big jack or whatever, something with enough force to just pop a basketball at that high speed like that. I don't know what it is. Kyros says, I need the Blightwater spell to beat Malkill as an elemental. I can't do it alone. The spell is in a chest, somehow in Mr. Big's limo's trunk. And Kyros goes all Legend of Zelda, and he gets saved by Big. He zaps Malkill, and Malkill, like, is about to retreat, and Mr. Big saves him, pulls him in the limo, and they drive off. So back in Big's lair, he proposes a team-up, and Malkill accepts, thinking, we'll go after Kyros first, just so, because I'm a nice guy. So a rock golem pops out as the power team searching for Big and Malkill to tell Kyros, Malkill wants to face you alone. Kyros accepts. Obvious trap set, but Kyros knew not to believe Malkill would really stick to fighting alone. Because the villains on the side is like, wait, do? I thought you would fight alone, Malkill. And Malkill's like, I lied. And Kyros like, I chose not to believe you in the first place. Hey, guys. Somehow again in a lunchbox or some Iron Pale quirk has the Earth Scorch spell for Malkill, who is now an Earth Elemental now, and wins. Debuting games for this episode, Michael Jackson's Moonwalker for the Genesis, complete with Johnny Arcade full-on hat and rhinestone glove with a Terabad impersonation of the Smooth Criminal. Yeah, like I said, the live action stuff are usually the cringe part of the Crackhead that this show is running on. Anyway, if I didn't mention it, that was episode 4, New Gang in Town. Episode 5, Burnt Rubber. Big's planning to steal some 4x4s and selling them off for higher prices. Big says, let's roll, and Rockhead literally rolls. Good form, too. Perfectly ball-shaped. They hijack a cruiser, and Mr. Big over the talking device says, like, nothing's wrong here, we're just taking a detour. Johnny Arcade somehow, with a radio signal, picks up this. Again, he somehow sees all and knows all. Johnny Arcade is your personal video game Jesus. Or is that, I guess that's Captain Ed now, I don't know. What he sees, the power team knows. Or when he tells them, of course. But yeah, someone with the radio and the frequency of the ship, he's like, oh, that sounds like Mr. Big. He's like, hell, power team, hey, get on that. And they're on the chase, and Bigfoot jumps that jump. Big's ready with an actual turret gun, like one of those like turnaround things, and just. And Bigfoot is controlled by Johnny. He's like, "Oh, I'm gonna use these lasers to zap him." And in that stalemate, Big like, "Okay, I'll hand this off to you, Rockhead." So anyway, he starts blasting. They continue trying to zap Big. So this gives Big the chance to come around from the side. He's like, "Yeah, I got this cartridge. I'm gonna zap Bigfoot home." Kiros arrives to block the beam with his sword. So yeah, now the cartridge can shoot and zap him home that way. So pew off the sword into another monster truck. Zaps one of the 4x4s and it transforms into what I assume is Bigfoot's adversary. I don't know that much about monster trucks myself. I just know Bigfoot had a game when it was like Bigfoot, huh? Just the commercials, really. It was Bigfoot back then, and then later on it became Gravedigger. And kids, these are still just $5. That's all I heard. That's my curse, my fucking memory of things like that. But yeah, now it's this red talking monster truck named Burnt Rubber. Hence the title of the. I'm like, okay. During the battle, our heroes win and chase the baddies off, but not before Burnt Rubber actually gets one over on Bigfoot. He almost matching him like move for move, and like he ends up with like his one of his tires all messed up. Like he gets booted around a little bit, and it's like Kiros to have to help him out to fend Burnt Rubber off, and Burnt Rubber loses one of his like tires, and he's like, "We'll get him out of here." And so so now Mr. Big's teaming up with Burnt Rubber now. They go over in their garage, and they fix him up. Burnt Rubber, he has the lingo with the game zones and the zapping. He's like, "Where am I getting this from? What's happening?" He's like, that blast came from the video game cartridge. He must have picked up on the lingo. He later takes off against Bigfoot on his own, because he's not one to wait around. He's like, "I'm going to do this now. I'm going to do this myself." Bigfoot out on the beach having his like little like moment with Johnny. He's like, "Oh, I used to be the big bad monster truck, and now I lost. I need to get my confidence back somehow." Having his existential crisis. And he gets it's not Johnny in the car. Like he's back in the TV with the. He sometimes leaves to greet the hero, so I guess it's in the real world because sometimes he'll leave and like talk with the team personally. I guess Millview's the real world, even though video game stuff is happening in it. Again, if you think about it, I feel like you've spent more time than the people making it. So yeah, Bigfoot's like, "I gotta get my confidence back somehow," and gets that chance. Burnt Rubber shows up, not wanting Johnny or anyone of the power team to interfere. Bigfoot goes by, takes him on himself. Down goes Bigfoot's tires with Burnt Rubber's drills. He's about to I'm gonna ram him with these my front end with these like two pointy things in the end, and they're drills, and he's like, "I'm gonna finish him off." And Bigfoot does the elevating thing like he did back over at the traffic, and then just slams on Burnt Rubber, squishing him. And one squish is enough to send Burnt Rubber driving off, and that's the end of that episode. Debuting game for this, I believe, is Al Unser Jr.'s Turbo Racing for the NES. And almost every episode, Johnny gets I haven't mentioned this yet. Johnny gets into a fight with a character of himself in this one it's like a review. He's like the other side of him is like, it's like camera work, so it's like Johnny on the left and the Johnny character on the right. He's dressed like he's like, "Hey, he's like, I got a New Yorker accent because I'm a mechanic, whatever." And he's like, he's like, so it's like graphics versus gameplay. Johnny on the left's like, gameplay. And one side he's like, "But the graphics." And they back and forth till they like are about to fight, and then it cuts away, and then to like the transition to the next thing. But yeah, it's always weird and cringe. But that's the first week of Video Power. A bit of production errors with this one, seemingly. As there's some episodes that's like Johnny will see the title of one episode and it's the showing of another. Like for instance, episode 3, he talks about find out what happened to the power tomb, and the episode title Johnny called Speedway Assault when it was Hollywood for Hollywood, or whatever it was called. Speedway Assault is episode 6, which I'll cover tomorrow. Tomorrow's episode of Rinoa Reviews Video Power, episodes 6 through 10. But before I end off, got some awards to give out. Yeah, because I'm gonna do an episodic, I gotta rip off the Gigaboot session and the Millennium microphone. First off, the power off, which is the worst. Yeah, the worst review, the Razzie, so to speak. And it was Quark throwing hands ineffectually. Like, it was at first like that first episode of Quark throwing hands after he bounces around left and right to deal with, like, henchmen, and then he decides, like, I'm gonna fight him like this. With all the tenacity and ineffectiveness of a Scrappy-Doo, and Spike just lowers like a crane and grabs him. That was the second dumbest moment. But Max Force being a cop, somehow dumb enough to think someone dumping fake bricks is cause for alarm. Because there's cameras everywhere. It's. I mean, I know it's not really like a closed set. They got like barricades to like keep people away, but they can see what's going on. It's like out in the open. It's like streets and everything. So somehow Max Force not getting that hit, and the whole team is like, how'd you not know? So yeah, power off for Max Force. Power on is the Joe Rockhead Katamari segment. It was the Katamari segment. That was good. But I think episode 3 before that, they're doing the movie set. Big, like, bunch of actors. You get on camera to make goofy faces for 10 minutes, then cut, 2-hour break. Joe's like, I wish I had that job. And Big replies like anyone be dumb enough to hire you. And Joe retorts, you were dumb enough to hire me, boss, eh? And Big doesn't even react. He doesn't say anything. He's just like, it's almost like, Like, even he knows he walked right into that one. He's like, oh, God. I got up by the dumb muscle. But yeah, his literal let's roll as he turns into a Katamari is probably in between Power On and the next award for the Crackheadiest moment. This was close, this thumbnail, but nothing's beaten the limo on the roof of the blimp shooting laser down. Like, that alone was like, okay, this is my end. This is, all right, we got a review now. I got a segment. I got to keep watching this. And finally, not really an award, but just, well, kind of. Because this is a shout out to all, like, the commercialiest of the time. And I don't want to go through all of them, because a lot of it was the stuff I got gleaned was, like, from a Fox channel. So it was, like, at the time, it was, like, Alf, Small Wonder, stuff like that. I'm strictly, because this is Video Power, I got to stick to video games. So, commercialiest goes to, right now it's a tie between, I think Tiger Electronics would win it out. Like, if I had to choose one, I think Tiger Electronics are going to win, because they were, like, all over the place, and there's, like, every episode break, they lead off with Tiger Electronics for, like, all these games. And even, like, they're not only, like, the handheld stuff, but, like, wristwatches. I think the episode 1 was, like, the Batman Tiger Electronic, and then the Tiger Electronic wristwatch, Batman the game, which I had it as a kid. That I remember having that as a kid. I never wore the watch, but I had. I don't think I wore the watch. Maybe I did. Maybe it told time. If it did it digitally, I probably had it. I just like cool Batman watch. I think that was my first watch as a kid that I remember. NES Paperboy for Mindscoop got a lot of showings too over the course of each episode. Fun fact: this was so early 90s. Commercials ran for the debut episode of The Simpsons as a TV show. Bart the Genius, like, they were showing, like, commercials that's like, premiering this on. I was like, oh my God, that's how old this show is. The Simpsons aren't even a thing yet. Wow. And now they're still a thing, like, 30 years later. My God. Lesser known, but still a thing. Do you remember those 1-900 numbers for video games? Because that came out like a couple times. And it was the same one, too. It was like $1.25 a minute. And this showed up twice, also. How about a nice Hawaiian punch? Oh, Babby Rinoa, if only you knew about Tahitian treat, you probably would have sworn off High C other than Ecto Cooler. Which I'm surprised wasn't a thing then. I don't know. What time frame are we in? We'll have to have to keep an eye on more commercials as they play on, as I continue tomorrow with episodes 6 through 10 of Video Power. So until next time, take care, and thanks for listening.